Are you planning a trip to Japan and worried about making embarrassing cultural mistakes? From navigating the language barrier to understanding why cash is still king, Japan is full of unique customs that can catch first-time travelers off guard. What if we told you that carrying your passport could save you money? Or that in Japanese taxis, you don't need to touch the doors? And that Japanese cuisine offers more than just fish and rice? In this video, we'll share essential travel tips for exploring or living in Japan. Whether you want to avoid crowded trains during peak seasons or know when to take off your shoes, we've got you covered. Stick around to learn how to navigate Japan like a pro and enjoy a seamless experience in this incredible country. Japanese language barrier. Worried you won't be able to communicate without knowing Japanese? Let's ease that anxiety. When travelers first arrive in Japan, they often feel anxious about not knowing the language, but they may be pleasantly surprised to discover that it's not as daunting as they thought. Japan has made considerable efforts to welcome international visitors, with many street signs, train stations, and even some restaurant menus displayed in both Japanese and English. Plus, modern navigation and translation apps can be a real lifesaver for tourists. Still, learning a few basic phrases is useful, especially sumimasen. This versatile term means excuse me or sorry and can be used to get someone's attention. For example, if you want to order at a restaurant, just raise your hand and say sumimasen. So, while knowing Japanese isn't essential, learning a few key words like sumimasen will make your trip a lot smoother. Why you need cash in Japan? Think Japan is a credit card-friendly country? You might want to rethink that. When you first arrive in Japan, you might assume that most places accept credit cards. Big mistake. When arriving in Japan, many travelers mistakenly believe that credit cards are widely accepted. However, the country largely operates on a cash-based system, especially outside major cities. Many restaurants, shops, and taxis do not accept credit cards, so it's advisable to carry at least 30,000 yen, about $200, for convenience. Although carrying this amount may raise concerns about safety, Japan is known for being one of the safest countries globally, and locals often carry even larger sums without worry. Nonetheless, finding ATMs that accept foreign cards can be tricky, particularly in rural areas, so planning ahead is essential. To save yourself the trouble of hunting down an ATM, make sure you always have enough cash for your daily needs. Japan isn't as credit card friendly as you might expect. Don't do this in a Japanese taxi. Think you should open or close the door in a Japanese taxi? Not so fast. You'll never forget the first time you hop into a taxi in Japan. If you're like most people, your instinct might be to close the door behind you until the driver stops you. That's because in Japan, taxis have automatic doors. It's all part of the exceptional service here, and there's no need to touch the doors at all. They open and close on their own. It may feel a little odd at first, but it's one of those uniquely Japanese experiences. Just sit back, relax, and let the driver take care of it. Trying to close the door yourself could cause an issue, so it's best to let it be. Avoid traveling during these busy seasons. Want to avoid overcrowded trains and skyrocketing hotel prices? Let me tell you when not to visit Japan. Japan's 4 seasons provide amazing travel opportunities, but it's best to avoid visiting during Golden Week, late April to early May, and the Obon Festival, mid-August. These peak travel times see crowded trains, higher prices, and fully booked hotels due to national holidays and family gatherings. During Obon, many locals return to their hometowns to honor their ancestors, making public transportation especially packed. If you dislike crowds, steer clear of these periods. Additionally, summer can be extremely hot, with temperatures often exceeding 36 degrees Celsius and high humidity, making it uncomfortable for sightseeing. For a smoother trip, it's best to avoid Golden Week, Obon, and the scorching summer months, when Japan is hot, humid, and crowded. Check your medication. Big warning for travelers. Worried about bringing medication into Japan? You should be. Before traveling to Japan, one crucial thing to verify is whether your medication is permitted. Japan has some of the strictest drug regulations in the world, and certain over-the-counter medications, like specific pain relievers or cold remedies, might be prohibited. Bringing these into the country could lead to serious legal issues, so it's essential to check beforehand. If you're bringing prescription medication, ensure it's for less than a month's supply and always have a copy of your prescription with you. When it comes to medication, it's better to be cautious in Japan. To avoid any hassles at customs, double-check the legality of your medication before your trip. Always carry your passport. Think you can leave your passport in your hotel room? Not a good idea. In Japan, it's legally required to carry your passport with you at all times. Police officers can stop and ask for identification, and if you don't have your passport on hand, you could face a fine. Although it might feel risky to carry such an important document around, Japan is generally very safe. There's also a bonus to carrying your passport. It can save you money. Many shops offer tax-free shopping for tourists, and simply presenting your passport at checkout can get you a 10% discount. So, always keep your passport with you. Not only is it a legal necessity, but it can also help you snag some savings. When to remove your shoes. Don't know when to take off your shoes in Japan? Here's the rule. In Japan, shoes are viewed as unclean and should not be worn inside. You'll need to remove your shoes when entering homes, certain traditional restaurants, and some temples and hotels. It's a good idea to wear shoes that you can easily slip on and off since this will happen often. Look for raised entryways or steps, which generally signal that it's time to take off your shoes. No need to worry, slippers are usually available for guests. While it may feel a little strange at first, following this custom is essential. If you're unsure, just watch what others do. If you notice them taking off their shoes, it's best to do the same. This is an important way to show respect for Japanese culture. Don't forget your towel. Wondering why everyone in Japan carries a small towel? Here's why. One thing that caught me off guard in Japan was the absence of paper towels in public restrooms. Instead, many people carry a small hand towel or handkerchief to dry their hands after washing them. This simple item is surprisingly useful to have. These towels serve more purposes than just drying your hands. You can also use them to reserve a table at a cafe or restaurant. In Japan, placing a small item like a towel, phone, or hat on a table indicates that it's occupied, and people will respect that. So, be sure to pack a small towel or handkerchief. It's a practical tool that locals frequently use. Public etiquette in Japan. Think Japan is like any other big city when it comes to noise. Think again. A striking feature of Japan is its general quietness, especially in public spaces. People typically speak softly on trains, buses, and even while walking, as loud conversations are uncommon. This emphasis on maintaining a low profile reflects the Japanese cultural value of being discreet, making it crucial for visitors to be mindful of their noise levels, particularly in crowded settings like public transport. Additionally, it's common to see individuals carrying their backpacks in front of them or taking them off entirely while riding the train. This practice helps avoid bumping into others in crowded train cars and is a small but significant way to show respect for fellow passengers. In summary, to blend in with the local culture, be sure to keep your voice down and be considerate with your belongings when using public transportation in Japan. Trash and eating while walking. Why are Japanese streets so clean, yet trash cans are so rare? While exploring Japan, you might notice the scarcity of trash cans, yet the streets are impressively clean. This is because people typically take their trash home. If you buy food or drinks from a convenience store, you're expected to either throw it away there or carry it with you until you find a bin. Additionally, it's best to avoid eating while walking. In Japan, dining on the go is considered impolite, particularly in more formal areas. It's preferable to find a place to sit and enjoy your meal, whether that's a park bench or a designated eating area. So, remember to carry your trash until you spot a bin and try not to eat while walking. It's all part of honoring the local culture. Japan isn't just fish and rice. Think Japanese cuisine is all about fish and rice. Think again. Many travelers think Japan is all about fish, But the country actually offers a wide variety of dishes beyond sushi, including fried chicken, savory soups, and hearty ramen. However, navigating dietary restrictions can be tricky. Restaurants often have strict menus, and staff may not fully understand dietary needs. Many sauces contain animal products, making it hard for vegetarians and vegans. To avoid surprises, it's best to use apps that list restaurants accommodating specific diets before traveling. So, while Japanese cuisine is diverse and delicious, be ready to tackle some dietary challenges if you have particular preferences or restrictions. Don't do this with cash. Think you can just hand cash directly to someone? You might want to rethink that. In Japan, it's uncommon for money to be exchanged directly from hand to hand. Instead, cash is placed on a small tray during transactions. Initially, if you tried to hand cash directly to the cashier, only to be pointed toward the tray. So, always make sure to use the tray when paying. If a tray isn't available, it's fine to either hand cash to the cashier or place it on the counter. In friendly areas like Osaka, cashiers might return change directly, but sticking to the tray etiquette is the safest bet. To avoid any misunderstandings, remember to use the tray when dealing with cash. It's an important cultural practice that demonstrates respect. Final tip: don't tip. Want to show your appreciation with a tip? You might want to reconsider. Many travelers to Japan are often surprised to discover that tipping is not a common practice and can even be viewed as disrespectful. On your first dinner outing, you might leave a small tip, thinking it's a nice gesture, only to find the staff visibly puzzled as they try to return the money. You'll learn that you might only see a tip jar in very casual places, and even then, it's entirely optional. It's important to respect local customs, as people in Japan truly appreciate thoughtfulness and politeness without the need for extra cash. To avoid any awkward moments, just remember that tipping is unnecessary in Japan. A simple thank you goes a long way. Navigating Japan can be a unique experience filled with fascinating customs and traditions. By following these tips, you can ensure a smoother and more enjoyable trip. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own Japan travel experiences in the comments.